Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll get to you in just a second. But perhaps if I can get all your opinions on this, even Evelyn's, as we talk about the impact of social media today. And Francis, let me get your thoughts on that, on just where it is in our lives today, how we can't do without it at all.
All right, thanks, Chico. That's a very interesting question because if you look at where we are currently, even with this COVID-19 pandemic, with our kids being at home and with schools being closed and only being opened recently, there, of course, there's a good side of social media and there's a bad side of social media.
Yeah.
Of course, the positive side is the fact that, our children are able to gain social and technological skills online.
Yeah.
For instance, if you look at applications like TikTok, they help them to develop video editing skills.
Yeah.
If you look at situations where people are able to connect with family and relatives, long-lost relatives across the globe, maybe someone who flew out a while back and you haven't seen them in a while, so able to connect with them. And I think on the other side also, it's been used as a platform for doing business. I'm sure, Shiko, at some point or the other, you've gone to Facebook to and shopped for stuff.
Right.
You know, you found someone who's selling something that you need, or you want to sell your car, or you're looking for a car to buy. So there's a positive side of social media.
Yeah.
But on the other end, there's also the negative side, which the first thing is addiction.
Yeah.
You get addicted to it because you get hooked to it, and it wastes a lot of your time if you don't manage it well.
Okay. Let's ask Emma as well her thoughts on just what the internet is and its role in our lives today.
I think just as Francis has said, internet at the moment we are in this era of information society and knowledge economy. So there is no way we are going to avoid the internet. And actually, I think that's why the government has done so much to enable to increase internet in terms of penetration, in terms of connectivity, in terms of speeds. Yeah. Because it's now global. We are now living in a global village. So internet is connecting us with the other worlds to do it, as he has said, the business and all the stuff. And as we saw with the pandemic, what it has taught us is that internet is so crucial because we've had children now on the virtual platforms learning, so they were kept engaged. So there isn't a way we are going to say that internet now we can avoid it. We are already in that. We are already in that era, and we've got to look at what is the positive and what is the negative. As I said, there is so much that we can learn from it, doing business. But of course, also there is also the bad that people get to compare themselves with others, and there is a lot of facades on the internet. We want to post things which are not the true of us. Right. So when we are looking at it, we can get our self-esteem sometimes can be affected. Okay. Yes.
We'll talk a little bit about that, but we want to also encourage you, dear viewer at home, that should you have any question in regards to online safety, this is a good time to actually bring it up and even ask the experts who are part of our panel, should you not be too sure about how to navigate this particular discussion, which is online safety. Evelyn, getting over to you. Emma said, yes, we are in the information age, but most importantly that's emerging is that we're in the era of disinformation, meaning that there's just so much content out there that could be harmful to us.
Well, I think Emma has said something very important, that we are in the fourth industrial revolution. Now, what that means is that we cannot escape technology, whether we like it or not. And I think the pandemic has made it so crucial to have internet accessibility. Yeah. So what we need to do right now, and we need to have started doing it anyway, is to just now start learning how to manage private and personal information. So that our children, one, are able to understand the kind of content they're supposed to put out there that will not harm them. Because I'm famous for saying this, that technology is a good thing, and if it is used mindfully, it is able to enrich our lives. Yeah. So we need to be able to start seeing how technology can enrich our lives, as opposed to it degrading the quality of life because we are spending too much time on it. So as parents and guardians, we need to start being able to first help our children understand the kind of content they're posting, the repercussions of the content that they're posting out there, and then help them to start harnessing the powers of technology.
Allow me to just, expound a little bit more on the dangers children are exposed to with you, Evelyn, specifically in the area of grooming. Can you explain what that is before we even start citing examples?
Okay, so online grooming is the process where children are lured to do unquestionable things, for example, sexual activities. So someone will make them vulnerable, ask them to send naked photos or videos of themselves, and then they start using that information in other quarters. So now we have different avenues where our children can fall prey into these things. One, we know social media is a huge platform. However, I bring the attention of the chat options in gaming platforms for, the online video games. The chat option is where most predators live, and parents don't know exactly what happens there. So I keep insisting, before your child starts playing a certain game, you need to have pre-screened it first. But also lock those places, lock the chat options, because once your child starts having conversations with strangers or friends or people whom they are not very sure of, they get lured into grooming in a way that you're not able to follow up, because in the chat options it is a private conversation. So gaming, social media, even the online study platforms, because there are platforms that have been installed by the schools, but if the chat options are not closed, the children start going into those spaces and doing their own things that the teacher also is not able to control or even follow what is happening.
Okay. All right. And I think this is where you actually come in, when you think about it, Francis, because what are some of these tactics that, people who are hackers or predators, as we call them, would be using to target children?
Okay. I think one of them, as Evelyn has mentioned, is grooming, where as an online predator, you would basically just create a fictitious account. And then, the account would be probably in relation to someone that the child knows, maybe a relative or a friend, and then begin to chat with them, or maybe even a local celebrity that is famous, and begin to chat with them in the sense of being able to gain their trust. And once they've been able to gain their trust, they lure them into meeting up physically. I think there was a case in the media recently about a KCP candidate who had been lured by these guys who are offering free online learning lessons. So they, of course, she was lured because of that, because she's a candidate, and they ended up kidnapping her. So these are some of the ways. Other ways are phishing. Now, phishing is basically just pretending to be someone that you're not, and then you send a fictitious message to someone with a malicious link or an attachment.
Which is what we are seeing even now during Safaricom's anniversary. We're actually talking about that. Yeah, so you're sending links to people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and you want them to click on those links so that you can either gain access to their machine. And once you gain access to their device on their machine, you can now begin to exfiltrate data, or you can learn more about them. Basically what we normally call social engineering. I want to learn more about this person so that I can know how better to exploit them.
Absolutely. And you'll be telling us a little bit about how we can protect ourselves. But Emma, the big question is, and even if you see this is the big debate across the world, who really should ideally be responsible for regulations? Is it the parent at home? Is it the government? Should it be even these social sites that we are depending on for connectivity, whether it's Zoom, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter? Who should be responsible for these regulations?
Actually, the person or the responsibility is on government, is on the parent, is on the sites themselves. And that is why the government will do one level, then the parents will do the next level, and then even the sites or the service providers, they'll do the next level. Government will make the laws and the policies. Then the parents, they've got to have the to arm themselves with the skills, with the digital skills, because that's where we are with our children. Yeah. So you have to arm yourself with the skills, because the parents have the responsibility for protection of the children. Right. Actually, it's even in the law. It's the Children's Act that there is parental responsibility to protect children from sexual violence, from all forms of abuse, and that is what they experience on the internet. On the popular sites, yes, because that is why we have controls on some sites. Yeah. For instance, like YouTube, if you are throwing some content on YouTube, they'll give you the requirements that you need to meet, and that's why there is even trusted flaggers that you can be flagged down if you put content which is not the right content. So it's all of us. It's the government, it's the parents, it's the sites themselves, and even the children themselves. Right. That is why the children they need to be armed with also the skills, with also the knowledge to know that there is harm there, so that they also know how do they protect themselves, how do they take some responsibility, some level of responsibility to themselves. That's true. When they engage. Because they also need to watch and be vigilant as well. Yes. Okay,
we just want to remind you the question of the day, by the way, that we do have for you, and it's all about what your recommendations really would be towards regulations, or at least the regulating of internet use right here in Kenya. And this is all in regards towards protecting our children. What kind of restrictions would you also go about recommending? Would love to hear your ideas, by the way, and how it's even working for you back at home. How are you able to manage the situation, and how your children use the internet back at home? Please share with us. You never know, there could be a parent today who will benefit something from what you have to say. Bona Director, do we have something that you'd like us to sample? All right, we've got one here that says, "Hi Shiko, my daughter is no longer concentrating on her studies because all she does is watching WWE Network. When I try to take her phone so that she can study, she talks back at me. She no longer wants to study. All she wants to do is go and join WWE." Wow. Okay. Well, we've got a very interesting point brought up, because now we can see this disconnect between daughter and mother. Evelyn, if you can hear me, going back to the story, first of all, that Francis highlighted, that we saw in the news earlier this month, of a young girl who was lured by a man posing as a teacher offering free online classes. It later turned out that, you know, they were living together for a couple of days, which was very surprising to some people. And yet she had mentioned to her parents that she'd be away going to meet friends. But it's a crazy twist of events. The question, though, a lot of people have is, where were the parents in all of this to actually believe that someone is giving your child free online classes and you didn't even ask where? How did this happen? So let's talk a little bit about the mistakes that we as parents could be making in regards to how our children are using the internet.
Wow, very nice question. Thank you for that. Now, even just looking at the situation of the unfoldings of this incident, you realize, you hear that there was a free online class, and as a parent, what I would expect parents to do is to ask certain questions, very deliberate questions. Who is giving that online class? Yeah. Because if it is not being formulated from the school officially, if it is a private tutoring, you need to be able to know the person on the other side of the screen. Who are they? What is their motivation on giving the free online training? And then also just getting to understand what platform are they using? Who else is going to be in that class? So that at least as a parent, you're able to know, I left my child in the morning seated behind a screen, and this is what they were supposed to be doing. Is there a scope of work they're supposed to be doing in terms of what are they supposed to be covering in terms of schoolwork? What are your expectations, despite the fact that this class is free? Yeah. Now, when we look at the occurrence of this incident, one, the child was being picked by someone. That is a red flag. Yeah, there is a red flag, because online classes is probably the purpose of the online class is because you're not able to meet physically with your tutor. And then obviously also asking in the sense of your child doing online classes, where in the house are you doing that? there's something that I keep insisting parents to do is creating zones and spaces where the child is able to have interaction with online, but in a space where you can hear. For instance, in my house, we banned using earphones because I need to be able to hear what my children are learning. And if they're asked a question, I'm able to understand and hear, because I have two children, one is on one side and the other is on the other side. I cannot be at the same place with each one of them at a particular time. So having children doing classes in their bedrooms is a very big mistake that we need to start rectifying. Create a space where you're able to hear. Lock all those earphones, because when you're not able to hear also the interaction happening in the class, then you're not able to control that environment at all. And then also, as a parent, take interest in what your child is doing, like in the sense of, the curriculum being covered, who else is in that class, what other conversations are happening within the class, because in a class setting, it is not always just education. So take interest. And then also, as parents, I believe we need to start checking what our children are doing. And I know Francis has amazing software that he will talk about that can help us monitor the activities of our children, because yes, they get bored with the online classes very quickly. You might find your child is on Netflix. You might find them they're playing games. So you need to be able to start seeing what other activities were your children doing while the class was going on. So instead of just hoping that they're learning, take interest, be intentional on what they're doing online, because that is one of the things that I feel there's a huge gap. And of course, when children are being groomed online, the perpetrators are actually looking for those gaps. Is the child alone? Is there adult supervision? Is the parent actually interested, or the child has just been given a gadget and then free-flowing internet? Are there screen time breaks? So that they can see where they can get in and look for your child, because it's all about trust. And the child is being given something they really, really want. So we need to start being a bit more interactive and collaborating with our children. And put filters and blocks. So I think that is something we need to do.
Another mistake, Francis, that you would probably see that we would be making as parents is lack of digital skills. You will be surprised how many parents have no idea how to operate Zoom. They don't even know what Facebook is. They're like YouTube naked. I'm sorry to use my language, but
no, it's fine.
I mean, it's just you are clueless. About what is going on. And this is even, what even some children who want to be, a bit devious would be loving about the fact that you don't know anything about the digital world. And so let's talk a little bit about digital skills and the importance for you as a parent to at least familiarize yourself with a few of these things.
No, it's important, Shiko, because today's children are, what I would say, way ahead of us. You know, I mean, they get to learn, they get to interact with technology at a very early age. And so because of that, they know a few things here and there. And so for parents, it's important for us to be able to know what's the latest in technology, what's happening, what are these new social media platforms, what's Snapchat all about, what is Instagram, what are they doing in those platforms. And also, as you learn about these digital platforms, how can you control them? So for instance, if you want to be able to limit the amount of time that your child is spending on like screen time, on their phones or on their devices, devices like Apple have something called screen time. You can limit how much a child is spending on WhatsApp by saying, I want them to spend only 30 minutes on WhatsApp. There are other devices out there that you can use, like there's one called Circle Home, which basically says at 9 o'clock, my children won't access internet until the next morning. And if they get mischievous and maybe try to disconnect that particular device, it will send you an alert message telling you that, there's something wrong, so you need to check on your children. And there are other various devices out there, or applications and platforms out there. Something like an application called Bark. It will always alert you when, let's say, there's a keyword that has, if your child is online and they are chatting with someone, there's a keyword like, let's say, drugs or pornography that has been used, and you'll get a notification about that. So you'll be able to actually take up the next step of finding out, okay, what are my children really doing online? And the other thing is also sensitizing them about not sharing their passwords with anyone online. And also not sharing their personal information online. We find so many people sharing their location, the name of their school, or what they're doing, like posting pics of headed to Diani, with the family for holiday. Right. So such things, you need to be very intentional about teaching them responsible use of the internet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short commercial break, but there's so much more to come up, in the second half of this discussion, including a very exciting partnership that has been formed between the Kenya Film Classification Board and Google. What's that all about? Well, we'll be putting Emma to task on that one to explain just what, even in terms of an agency, they are doing in their role to at least protect children online. Remember, if you've got any questions, the experts are here. I'm calling him the cyber expert guy, the techie guy, to tell you what you can actually do to put those measures in place. And of course, Emma as well as Evelyn are still here to also answer your questions as far as online safety for your children is concerned. Talk to us at K24 TV. Remember that WhatsApp number is at the bottom of your screen. And if you'd like to call, we'd also love to hear your voice. Karibu sana. We'll be back with more.